Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Brothers and sisters, welcome to this final episode in the series The End of Days. In this series, brothers and sisters, we have covered some of the ahadith in Sahih Muslim, in Kitab Al-Fitan wa Ashrat Al-Sa'a, the chapter of tribulations and the signs of the hour, some of the trials, some of the minor signs, some of the major signs, and indeed, we are now covering the methodology of the believer in these last few episodes, and inshallah this will be the very last episode in the series. So we want to conclude with these methodology of the believers in staying away from trials and tribulations. And I've entitled this final episode, Be Just and United. And that's not the only 2 points that I will mention to you, but I think the two come together. Because if we are united without being just, then this unity will benefit us nothing, i.e. if we unite upon other than the Quran and the Sunnah. However, if we are just and fair in our unity and in everything else, then this is a means to be saved from trials and tribulations. So the first point that we're going to make, which I believe is somewhere around the 12th point that we've made in terms of the methodology of the Muslim, is stay away from differing and stick to the united body of the Muslims. Brothers and sisters, unity is something that is very much misunderstood by the Muslims, and very few Muslims get it right. And that is because people talk about unity as though it is an all-encompassing goal, and there is no goal for a Muslim other than that. And that quite simply is not true. Allah Azza wa Jal requires us, as we have mentioned before, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا. Gather together upon the rope of Allah. Become united upon the rope of Allah, upon the book of Allah, upon the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what we unite upon. To be united upon al-urwat al-wuthqa, the most trustworthy handhold that will never ever break. This is also what we are required to be united upon. We are not required to unite with one another for unity's sake. Rather, to unite with one another based upon the book of Allah and the Sunnah, and to stick to the jama'ah. فَإِنَّ يَدَ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْجَمَاعَ وَمَنْ شَدَّ شَدَّ فِي النَّارِ. The hand of Allah is on the jama'ah, the united body of the Muslims. Those Muslims that are united behind their ruler, behind their scholars, that are together as the main body. As for those who break away from the jama'ah, وَمَنْ شَدَّ شَدَّ فِي النَّارِ, the one who breaks off from them breaks off in the hellfire. They are the Khawarij. Those people who have broken off from the Jama'ah, broken off from the body of the Muslims. But a person might say, how do I know who the body of the Muslims are? There are so many people who claim to be the body of the Muslims. Brothers and sisters, it's not a majority-minority issue. But it is the one who is upon the truth and the one who is upon the Sunnah, even if they are alone. Do not break away from the main body of the Muslims and form a sect or a group, or form a rebellious entity that seeks to destroy the main body of the Muslims. فَإِنَّ يَدَ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْجَمَاعَةِ. For indeed the hand of Allah is over the united body of the Muslims. وَمَنْ شَدَّ شَدَّ فِي النَّارِ. And the one who goes away from them into the hellfire. However, it's essential that we understand that unity is not for unity's sake. Unity is upon the Quran and the Sunnah, and the Jama'ah is whoever is upon the Quran and the Sunnah, even if they are small in number. My next point, and the one that relates to the title, stay away from oppression and punishment, or punishing others, and stick to justice, goodness, and mercy. This is true in uniting, and indeed, brothers and sisters, it is true in surviving trials and tribulations. Al-jaza'u min jinsil amal. How many times have we said, you are rewarded from the kind of deeds that you do. If you are yourself just and good and merciful, so Allah Azza wa Jal will be merciful to you. وَإِنَّهُ مَنْ لَا يَرْحَمْ لَا يُرْحَمْ. And the one who is not merciful to others, Allah will not be merciful to them. So when you see people falling into trials, when you see people not abiding by the lessons they should have learned from the minor sins, when you see Muslims being bitten from the same hole twice, be merciful, be kind, be gentle with them, teach them, and be just. because the closer we get towards the sign of the hour, one of the minor signs the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that we haven't covered in this lecture series is the absence of honesty, such that a man would travel a far distance simply to find another man who is honest. And it's very sad that we are coming across this in our time now. Just recently I wanted to get my car fixed, and it's almost got to the point where you have to travel to a different city just to find one person who is honest and reliable. This is one of the signs of the coming of the hour, that honesty will disappear until it will be that a person would travel and say, go to such and such a city, for in it there is one man who is honest. This is the kind of thing we are seeing now in our time, and it requires a Muslim to oppose that by being just, honest, reliable, trustworthy, and seeking out good wherever they can do so. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala has a beautiful statement in which he said, "Ash-shari'atu adlun kulluha." The Sharia, every single part of it is just. Wa rahmatun kulluha. And every single part of it is merciful. Wa masalihu kulluha. And everything about it brings about good consequences. Wa hikmatun kulluha. And every single part of the Sharia is wise. فَكُلُّ مَسْأَلَةٍ خَرَجَتْ مِنَ الْعَدْلِ إِلَى الْجَوْرِ وَمِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ إلى ضدها ومن المصلحة إلى المفسدة ومن الحكمة إلى العبث فليست من الشريعة في شيء. He said, so every single ruling or every matter which has gone away from justice into oppression, and from mercy into the opposite of it, and from positive consequences into negative consequences, and from wisdom into foolishness, or from wisdom into wastefulness, then this is nothing to do with the Sharia at all. وَإِنْ أُدْخِلَتْ فِيهَا بِتَأْوِيلٍ. Even if some people may try to interpret it as being from the Sharia. Wallahi, if I only told you this, in this whole series, this statement would be worth it. Wallahi, I believe this statement to be from the statements that is deserving of being written in gold. One more time that Ibn al-Qayyim said, the Sharia, all of it is justice. All of it is mercy. All of it is positive consequences, and all of it is wisdom. So any issue which goes from justice to oppression, or from mercy to the opposite of it, or from positive consequences to negative consequences, or from wisdom to foolishness, it is nothing to do with the Sharia in anything, even if it is mistakenly counted as part of the Sharia because of a false interpretation. So if we want what is good, we want what is Islam, we want the Sunnah, we're going to find it in justice, we're going to find it in wisdom, we're going to find it in mercy, and we're going to find it in those things that bring about positive results and not those things that bring about negative results. Our next point, do not seek out to cause fitan, and seek refuge with Allah from the evil of them. It's sad that some of the brothers and sisters, when they hear the story of the Dajjal, they wish that they could witness this time, or they wish that they could witness Ya'juj and Ma'juj, whereas the Prophet ﷺ, since Allah Azza wa Jal revealed to him about the Dajjal, had not ceased making dua for Allah to save him from the Dajjal. And since it was revealed to him about the punishment of the grave, he did not cease making dua to Allah to save him from the punishment of the grave. So it's not for us to seek out trials and say, oh Allah, put me in a trial. I want to show that I will reject the Dajjal, that I will run with Isa and avoid Ya'juj and Ma'juj. If you're put in it, then inshallah you will do the right thing. And I believe that, and I hope in that, and I pray for that, that you will do the right thing. But don't seek to be in it. Don't hope and pray that you're going to fall into it, because this is not the methodology of a Muslim to seek out trials and tribulations. The methodology of a Muslim is to seek refuge with Allah. And from the best of seeking refuge that you do is what you say in the tashahhud, one of the wordings of which is Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab al-qabr wa min adhab al-nar wa min fitnati al-mahya wal-mamat وَمِن شَرِّ فِتْنَةِ الْمَسِيحِ الدَّجَّالِ. O Allah, I seek your refuge from the punishment of the grave, and the punishment of the hellfire, and the trials of life and death, and the evil of the trial of the Masih ad-Dajjal. This is the methodology of the Muslim. From the methodology of the Muslim in asking Allah to save you is to ask Allah Azza wa Jal to save you in the morning and the evening adhkar. So in the morning that you make dua for Allah to save you from trials and tribulations, and in the evening you make dua according to those duas, like in Fortress of the Muslim, the duas for the morning and the duas for the evening. This is from the methodology of the Muslim. We don't go out seeking it, but if it happens to us, we're ready for it. That is the methodology. So we're ready, we're not unprepared, we know about it. However, if it happens to us and we're expecting to be able to be successful with the help of Allah, but if it happens, we don't seek it, and we certainly don't want it to happen to us. Rather, we seek refuge with Allah from it happening. We're going to conclude on the points of the methodology of keeping safe from trials and tribulations. This is the last half of the last episode in the series. This is all we have had time to cover, and Allah Azza wa Jal has enabled us to do, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us in it, and to bless all of you in learning it and implementing it, and indeed learning even more about it than what I have told you. We're going to continue with these principles and the methodology of the Muslim in being saved from trials and tribulations. I believe we are on somewhere around number 15, if my numbering is correct. And that is, do not be fooled by the beauty or by the adornment of tribulations, but look at each tribulation and each trial with the eye of a Muslim. From the clearest examples of this is the trial of the Dajjal. The trial of the Dajjal is a one where you will be presented with every kind of beauty. Your parents and dead relatives brought back to life in front of your very eyes. The most cold and sweet of water. Paradise itself, and yet all of them will be fake. The people from your relatives you see alive will be nothing more than the jinn. The parents that you see alive will be nothing more than the jinn dressed up in the dress of your parents. The Jannah that you see will be hellfire. And the sweet cold water that the Dajjal brings to you will in fact be the fire and the burning flame. The riches and the wealth that the Dajjal brings will be poverty. And although the Dajjal is an extreme example of a trial, this is true in every trial, even the trials we face in our lives today. And that is that if we see a trial and we look at the apparent beauty of it, so we want to jump in there with 2 feet. And we want to be involved, we want to run to it, we want to take part in it, because it appears to be beautiful. I said, some of the scholars said, a fitna comes like a beautiful young woman and leaves like an ugly, old, disfigured woman. When you see it from a distance, it looks beautiful. And you look like you want to take part. And when it comes to you, and only when it leaves, you realize what evil it was and how ugly it was. Don't be fooled. Everything can be made to seem beautiful. Propaganda can make something seem beautiful. Look at everything with the eye of the believer. Is it really what it seems? Have I really checked the reality of this issue? Have I really established the truth of it or the lack of truth? Do I really want to go and involve myself in something? Have I sought the advice of the scholars? Have I learnt about it? Don't be fooled by the apparent nature of trials and tribulations. From the beautiful statements in this regard that I want to read to you, it's the statement of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, that he said, قَدْ اتَّفَقَ أَهْلُ الْمَعْرِفَةِ وَالتَّحْقِيقِ أَنَّ الرَّجُلَ لَوْ طَارَ فِي الْهَوَى أَوْ مَشَى عَلَى الْمَاءِ لم يتبع إلا أن يكون موافقا لأمر الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, all of the people of knowledge and the people of distinction know that if a man were to fly through the air or walk on water, he would not be deserving of being followed unless it was in accordance with Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What a beautiful statement this is. You imagine a man flies through the air. You imagine a man walks on water, or brings Jannah and Jahannam, or bread and milk, or fire and water, or whatever it may be. Whatever a man does, no matter how amazing it is, he's not deserving of being followed unless he comes with that which is in agreement with Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The next principle, number 16, and this one I feel is extremely important as well. Avoid exaggerating and going to extremes and stick in the middle. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. And in this way we have made you a middle ummah. We have not made you an ummah that goes to extremes on one side or on the other. Rather stick to the middle. You will see people in every issue in Islam going to extremes, to the left and to the right, becoming extreme in one way and extreme in another. And don't forget, you can be extreme in two ways. You can go to ifrat or tafrit. You can go to extremes in one side or the other. Too harsh, too lenient. Remain in the middle. What defines for you what the middle is? The middle is defined by the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and indeed by the book of Allah Azza wa Jal. So we don't decide the middle for ourselves. We say, well, I'm going to pray 3 times a day because 5 times a day is extreme. Once a day is extreme, so I'll pray 3 times a day. We say no. The Quran defines the middle. The middle is that you do not pray day and night and ignore your family and ignore your business and your job, and that you do not pray less than 5 times a day. So you pray 5 times plus your voluntary prayers, plus perhaps the night prayer, etc. This is the middle. The middle is what is defined by the Quran and the Sunnah. And as an extension to that, we can add a further point. Be cautious of people's rights over you. Be careful never ever to break people's rights over you, and stick and fulfill the rights that people have over you. Allah Azza wa Jal said, Inna Allaha ya'murukum an tu'addu al-amanati ila ahliha. Allah commands you that you fulfill the amanat, the responsibilities to those whom they are due. And Allah Azza wa Jal said, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu awfu bil-uqud. O you who believe, fulfill your trusts and your oaths and your promises. And the methodology of the shaitan is that the shaitan breaks promises. Inna Allaha wa'adakum wa'ad al-haq wa wa'adtukum fa'akhlaftukum. The shaitan breaks promises. And we don't want to be like him. And the munafiq, when they make a promise, they break it. Or when they're given a trust, they betray it. When they speak, they lie. This is the characteristic of the munafiq, or the way of the munafiq. So as a Muslim, if we want to survive trials and tribulations, whether they are small or major, even as major as the Dajjal, we must be very, very cautious that we fulfill the rights of other people. Because there are 3 kinds of dhulm, brothers and sisters. One kind of dhulm, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forgive if you die with it, and that is that you make a partner with Allah. One kind of dhulm or oppression, Allah will never overlook it, and that is the things you do to other people. And one is the dhulm that Allah will forgive and overlook, and that is the dhulm that you do to yourself. So don't oppress other people, because on the Day of Judgment it may be that they come and take your good deeds, and in this life it may be that you are put into trial and tribulation, and you're not saved from the trials of the Dajjal and the trials of the major signs and the minor signs because of not giving other people their rights. The final point that I want to mention to you in this series, from the methodology of a Muslim in keeping safe from trials and tribulations, is, brothers and sisters, avoid being short-sighted. Many of us are short-sighted when it comes to trials and tribulations. We don't see just how these are coming upon us, and either we remain in a state of ignorance, sitting back and saying that it's not going to happen to me, I'm not going to live through it. Or when it happens, we don't recognize it. Or even when we recognize it, we don't take the right kind of action to get out of it. Don't be short-sighted. Don't be a person who only sees a very short distance in front of their face. Be a person who looks at the long-term view, who looks at what the origin of the trials are, why trials happen, why tribulations happen, why problems happen, who avoids those problems from happening, who does whatever they can to try to keep away from trials and tribulations, who sees them for what they are when they come, sees them as being the evil that they are when they come, who doesn't get emotionally involved because they realize that the morning after they became emotionally involved, they're going to regret that emotion, who doesn't speak without knowledge because they know there will come a time when they will regret what they did. who doesn't rush and remains patient. And I think this is perhaps a summary of all of the previous points with regard to following the sunnah, sticking to the people of knowledge, is that we can summarize them and say, don't, when it comes to the end of days, when it comes to the trials of the Muslim, the major trials and the minor trials, brothers and sisters, don't be short-sighted. Have a long-term vision and a long-term goal of exactly what is happening. Be aware of the trials that are around you. Be aware of the signs that are around you, the minor signs and the potential of those signs becoming major signs. Don't be ignorant. Don't get caught out with a sudden trial that you are not prepared for. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made easy for me to present to you. We have covered Kitabul Fitan wa Ashrat al-Sa'a from Sahih Muslim, the book of tribulations and trials and the signs of the coming of the hour. We haven't covered every sign. We couldn't hope to do so. However, we've covered whatever Allah Azza wa Jal made easy for us to cover, and I recommend all of you go, if you haven't already, take a copy of Sahih Muslim and read through Sahih Muslim for yourself, the chapter of tribulations and trials. Build upon what I've already told you. Listen to other people explaining the same topic. You'll get a wider view, a better knowledge. Read books on the topic. Inshallah, you'll get a wider view, better knowledge. Stick to the authentic hadith. And most importantly, understand this methodology of a Muslim in sticking to the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, in having long-term vision as opposed to having short-term vision. And most importantly, sticking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep you with sincere intention and upon the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ from the moment that you are born until the moment that you die, trying to remain steadfast and remain firm. May Allah Azza wa Jal protect all of us from the fitan, the trials and tribulations, ma dhahara minha wa ma batan, that which is apparent to us and that which is hidden. May Allah Azza wa Jal keep us safe from the punishment of the grave and the punishment of Jahannam and the trials of life and death and the evil of the trial of the Masih ad-Dajjal. And may Allah Azza wa Jal protect us and protect our families and make us an example for the pious. That's all I have time for in this series. And may Allah Azza wa Jal reward all of you for your time and for listening. And until another series comes, inshaAllah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.